from the very beginning of making Friday Beers. We're bringing back laugh out loud, worthy, funny, and it didn't have any type of agenda. Let's just make stuff to make people laugh.
I read the headline of, Friday Beers raises money.
Yeah.
When did it go from a page about, and there's a compliment, big jokes, to
masturbation?
From that to a company which needs venture money.
We got to hire people who are like all around amazing, creative, funny, all-star dudes. To do that in a quick way, you need a little bit of money. They have like all the tools that it takes to become this like incredible piece that carries the company to a level it wasn't at before.
You said you're from Greenwich, right?
Yeah, Greenwich, Connecticut.
And that's a pretty like finance heavy town.
Everyone works in finance. They got to work in finance.
As East Coast as it comes.
I worked at Deutsche Bank, by the way. 6 months into it, I was like, what the fuck am I doing at this job?
People you grew up around were probably are people who are involved in Wall Street somehow.
Yeah, definitely.
You want to go creative storytelling comedy route.
Yeah.
What was the conviction behind that point? You are leaving a steady day job.
Totally. Just taking those shots about things you might be interested in is what cracks open the wall a little bit to sneak your way in there and build something. What's up? I'm Jack Barrett. I'm the CEO and the co-founder of Almost Friday Media with my brothers Max Barrett and Sam Barrett, and I'm pumped to be here talking a little bit about what we do.
Congrats to the beer in New York.
Thank you.
How's that going so far?
It's going great. I mean, it's a long road to sell the beer in all the places it needs to be sold. Like you want to be in every bar, you want to be in every they're called on-trade is bars and restaurants, and off-trade, I learned a lot about beer, by the way, is like liquor stores and package stores and like Dwayne Reed's.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating to understand like how you sell in through the different things. That's not our job. It's the distributor's job we hired, but we go along on some of the trips, and New York is, you know, it is a full of these places. There are thousands of bars and thousands of stuff, and it's just going to take a long time to get full distribution. But the good news is that the beer tastes really good, and people know Friday Beer, so it's a really cool story to be able to tell people.
It sounds like the most obvious D2C story ever, Friday Beers.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like a bit, I would say, ironic, because Friday Beers, as what became our media company, wasn't about like, let's get fucked up on Friday. Friday Beers is a feeling that people look forward to, and my brother Max and I, and our brother Sam, we started the account. And Max and I did a lot of the early sort of creative writing and the developing of like, here are the friends in your friend group. Here are the rituals you go through every week. Here's what we worry about in life. Here's what we kind of use to get through the week. That culture of just like hanging out with your friends is Friday Beers, and looking forward to hanging out with your friends. Friday Beers is a term that's like signifies that great feeling, but it really is encapsulating of this entire culture of, dude, spending time with the people you love and getting through life together.
I know when you guys started the Instagram page, walk me through, was there this much forethought, or was it just like one day at a time, let's just make the best memes possible, then like things happen?
Dude, actually, it's a great question, because there was so much work we put into it.
Yeah.
I was working at a company called Radical Media, which is a media production company based out of the West Village. It's an incredible company. It's led by a guy named John Kamen. I was doing creative development for them. And I was basically pitching like branded content projects, like Nat Geo, you should do this like event. You should make this documentary series. And I was doing that, and I was writing and pitching and working in media. And I was great, because that was like a big part of my skill set. My brother Max, he was working as a copywriter at advertising agencies. Okay. So we were both writing creatively to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And we both knew that we wanted to write comedy, and we wanted to write comedy that like spoke to a 28-year-old or a 26-year-old growing up. That's what we were. Yeah. And we had a sketch comedy group that Max really drove called 20-something Comedy.
Nice.
And Max made the sketches out in Los Angeles. I would write some of the sketches for the group, and it had like 4,000 Instagram followers, but we put so much love and thought and humor into writing these things.
Yeah.
And we also, at the time, were like, dude, let's just put the 20-something lifestyle into scripts. Let's write let's write like a 30-minute comedy script for a show idea we had. Let's write this like kind of baseline for a feature idea. And we were doing that every single month. And people weren't really like, it was hard to get meetings. Like when you're trying to break into Hollywood or the entertainment industry, it can be tricky, and people don't really give you any type of attention until you have something that's like massive on its own.
Mhm.
So you like need the proof
Building blocks,
before
yeah,
you
yeah.
need to have like, you have the actual skill.
Yeah.
And what the most successful thing we did was start this Instagram account.
Yeah.
And it was really Max. He took the account, he called it Friday Beers, and he started making these like new type of, I'll call it artwork
Yeah.
pieces that are like combining moments from Night at the Roxbury, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the Knicks Bucks game, music that we loved, and we would write jokes on top of it. And those jokes were 20-something comedy jokes. Those jokes were about 25-year-olds figuring life out in really our own style, which is we're all in this thing together. No one's excluded. Everybody's invited to the party. We'll figure out life. And that became what Friday Beers was to people. And they're like, these guys, these friend groups are exactly like my friend group. And that's how it grew. And that's how it really got shared. And it kind of made me a little upset that we didn't start it like 5 years earlier. I was 29 at the time we started it. And it became something that was just like bigger than I think either of us ever recognized it could be, but in a great way, because it was a symbol of people hanging out and wanting to spend time with their friends all over the country.
I think the footnotes there is like an undercurrent of everyone's 9-to-5 life and how shitty it can get.
Yeah.
And the escape you're looking for. And to kind of like encapsulate that in memes or whatever.
That's it.
And I have other questions, but this is a weird niche tangent. How was dealing with copyright in the
that's a great question. And honestly, the reason that I'll say this first.
Well, just to set some context, the reason I'm asking that, because like you said, you guys were using media from like Always Sunny or movies or music, whatever.
No, I've obviously thought about this a lot. And we live in a weird world where a lot of the content, the meme content on Instagram is pretty gray area on like copyright rippage. And it's like, here's an Always Sunny still
fair use.
And here's a comment on it. And that's kind of okay. People are all right with that. We were in an interesting position because like we were taking other video content, but editing it together to form a new work.
We're all gonna die together out here. You're a good group of boys to die with, I'll tell you that much. You should have come here.
We're even now. I went crazy. I'm so sorry.
I started it.
So it's like 12 clips from different shows and movies that are strung together. And then we had a layer of text over it that's providing this like commentary, which is really our joke making and our telling of stories that are about, the 26-year-old kid growing up in New York, which is where, I'm from Connecticut, obviously, but I was living in New York at the time. And I want to live here. I want to move back here. Although I moved to LA, I lived here for 10 years. That type of new creation got us past, I think, a lot of like copyright hangups.
Yeah.
And we also grew so fast because people identified with this culture that we had hundreds of thousands of followers. And, then we had 1 million followers, and we were institutionalized at that point. Like I will say Max really, he's a brilliant editor, and we're both writers. And the way that we put out videos changed, I think, a lot of internet culture at the time. Like we really made that type of content a thing. And then we really made all of our sayings a thing and all of our characters a thing. And that was, I think, why we were able to sort of dodge at least the social media copyright, which I think we're totally in the right on that. Like we're making new works out of existing works. And I guess we might get into this later, but now what Almost Friday's become is totally original content. Yeah.
I want to get to the original content, but I'll just tell you like my story of experiencing the content. It was during COVID, and when all the content felt it's getting nicher and nicher, and everyone has their own corner of Gen Z humor on TikTok, there was a callback to old school Judd Apatow-esque comedy.
Totally.
And I'm 28, so I'm kind of like my foot's on the both fence of Gen Z and millennial.
Yeah.
But that kind of reminded me of that old school humor, which I stopped seeing online for a long time. And Friday Beers kind of like brought that back for me.
Dude, that's one of the nicest things that you've ever said or will ever say to me, because that First of all, you're exactly Sam Barrett's age. He's 27. And Max and I, from the very beginning of making Friday Beers, were like, we're bringing back not even just Judd Apatow. I think he's one of the last great, like, kind of classic comedy filmmakers, but like all the way back to like National Lampoon movies, like Animal House. Like we're talking about like 80s and 90s Saturday Night Live. We're talking about Sandler, Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore. We're talking about movies like even up to like Wedding Crashers, and even like 2000 Saturday Night Live, like Will Ferrell era, Chris Parnell era, stuff that was just like laugh out loud, worthy, funny, and it didn't have any type of agenda, political or whatever. That's just like, let's just make stuff to make people laugh. And what Max and I are really focused on doing with the writing is omitting any parts that would have sort of like caused that comedy to die out. You're saying correctly. I don't see any of that stuff anymore. It doesn't really exist anymore.
It doesn't.
And the reason is that people can't really, or they're afraid to, or I think we're like overly politically correct where we're not really willing to have any of that stuff taken back. But those topics are just like so bad to be associated with, and some of them should be like like Van Wilder is like a problematic movie in a lot of ways. But if you strip out like the bad elements that are like exclusive, sexist, badly political, and just get rid of that,
like Hangover 1 would make past like writing today.
No, I don't think that could get made today. But I think there's an era where that can be done. And we actually are on a mission to just make sure that type of comedy can have a home again. I mean, we're not the only ones doing it at all, but we're one of the people that like really believe that comedy has a place in today's comedic landscape, I guess you would.
So like after that COVID phase, my eyebrows kind of like, obviously like I was following the page and everything, but then my eyebrows kind of went up when I read the headline of, oh, Friday Beers raises money. I don't know, like you can fact check me here, like 6 million from people like obviously like Jared Goff was involved. There's like big names here. So when did it go from a page about, and there's a compliment, dick jokes or whatever, to
masturbation?
From that to like a company which needs venture money. So
that's that's a funny thing to kind of talk about, because I sort of knew with Max at the beginning that this could become like a much bigger media idea, Friday Beers. And this is just when we had Friday Beers Instagram account. And now we've made a lot of different brands. And I was like, I don't know what it's going to become yet, but like it could become this sort of new entity that pushes this humor out wherever that humor is available. 2020 was COVID. And we just worked on the account and maybe a few other supporting accounts. We like took a character, Dr. Locks, and like, you know, we made that an account. We took DJ Press Play, we made him an account. And we were sort of spinning off new things, but it was all social media based. And then in like 2021, we're like, dude, let's go for it. And I just told you how much I love New York. Like I was like, I'm going to move out to Los Angeles in March of 2021. Sam already moved out to support Max. And it was just like 3 dudes in a shitty house making stuff. And we were like selling a lot of merch. We're doing a few brand deals. We were like making enough money to support ourselves. But it was growing. And it was growing because we started to find people. And my brother Max really found, I think, the first 2 people that were major difference makers in the comic side, which is Will Angus and Liam Cullagh. Incredibly funny and talented comedians. And we sense that these guys are sort of the future of what Friday Beers is.
I mean, I think you should come. Everyone's going to be there. So.
Hey, dude, I'm down as long as there's beer there, you know?
Dude, I'm a guy. I only need 3 things to be happy. Beers, my bros, and babes. Mulching, digging for worms.
What?
Because the meme stuff, or I don't even like calling it meme stuff, but like the creative editing stuff is great. That's always going to be the heartbeat of our account. But it's really about people. It's about like the dudes in your life that you love hanging out with. And they brought like such hilarious takes on characters. They're so hardworking. They're so funny. And we're like, we're going to be a sketch group again. And we're going to put sketches as a big part of Friday Beers. And they ended up starting Almost Friday TV, which is our sketch group. And that became sort of the branch into what the company became, which is Almost Friday Media. And we did the fundraise because to do that in a quick way, you need a little bit of money. We could do it in a non-quick way, but it would probably take us like 6 years. You know, we're making a decent amount of money, but to be able to like hire people, comics, but also like graphic designers, hiring an editor, hiring a producer, hiring salespeople. We actually hired our first salesperson in 2023, if you can believe that. We had an agency doing sales for us for the beginning, but that stuff takes, you know, money to do. And we raised $6 million from, I'll call it like a friends and family round. Goff invested because he's boys with Max. They're friends. Okay. And I'm friends with him too through Max. And he like has always been supportive of what we're doing. They're just friends from hanging out in Los Angeles, if you can believe that. And he's like one of the best guys I've ever met. And he just like, you know, it was like, you guys have something cool going, threw us like a little bit of money. And those type of people really make a difference because it represents like Friday Beers is this like come on like group party. And people involved in us are definitely have that same attitude.
I found out about Goff's investment because one day I was casually listening to Cullagh.
Yeah, oh, right. So do you know the background on that?
You and I are actually business partners in Friday Beers.
Oh, no way. Really?
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah. Did you invest?
I did.
Oh, fuck yeah. I love those guys.
Cody Ko is also a spectacular guy.
Yeah.
And he was like, going to invest. And we had like an investment call with him. And he's,
with Cody.
Yeah, with Cody. He's such a cool dude.
Yeah.
And he basically was getting married at the same time. Yeah. And I think he just like, dude, like this is like when I was following up to like kind of collect like the investment documents. He's like, dude, total respect, but like I'm just going through a big house change right now. I'm getting married. I can't invest. And I had told Jared Goff that Cody Ko was investing, which he's planning to, but then something happened and he didn't. He pulled out. But I never relayed that to Jared. And then Jared went on Cody's podcast and he was like, I heard we're investing in Friday Beers. And Cody Ko was like,
he just lied.
Let's go. Well, okay, Jared, friend and now business partner. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Are you okay with keeping all that investing in Friday Beers things in, or do you want us to cut early on?
Yeah, I never invested in Friday Beers.
Are you serious?
I was about to, and then I didn't.
Are you serious?
Are you serious?
Yeah, he's like, yes. And then he's like, no, I'm not doing it. It was a hilarious moment. It was my fault, honestly. I didn't communicate it to Jared. But I thought that moment was really good.
That clip is like still viral for a reason of like Cody lying.
Yeah, exactly.
On the pod.
Yeah.
But to go back to like the Will Angus equation when that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you guys were doing. Was the company technically pre-revenue or whatever?
Yeah.
But from you guys' standpoint, what is y'all's pitch to someone like Will, realizing that these people can be great cast members or just like the creative crew in the family? So when you guys are going up technically hiring talent, while the brand is still like a meme page or whatever, what is your pitch to them?
Well, it's a little bit of both. Like we're trying to recruit people into Friday Beers or Almost Friday Media, which is what we renamed the company, who have like proven that they can make characters and make entertaining sketch stuff that are fit into our universe. So it's not like we got to go and hire 20 sketch guys.
Yeah.
We got to hire people who are like all around amazing, creative, funny, all-star dudes.
Yeah.
And women too. We just actually are, starting to hire our first woman, Elise Patton, who's like one of the most funny people I've ever watched.
Hey guys, remember I told you I got a new girlfriend?
Yeah.
Hey-o.
What's up, pussy boys?
Oh my god.
I've been waiting to meet these little lesbos. Let us grab on in. Nope, this guy takes up a little bit of room. What's this on him? What's this on
Mr.
him?
Porky.
Little piggy. Little piggy. Okay.
Jared.
The drinker. Cool.
I told her about the problem you had.
In and out of the rehab.
With a guy like Will, he was making TikToks that are, there's one where he goes into like a dorm room and is like marveling at these like beer cutouts that are on the wall.
Yeah.
What's up, James?
Hey, what's up, man? How's it going?
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Shut up! Oh, no way!
He has these like, and that's just like one of 20 characters more that he does. We see that stuff. And when it's not everybody works or everything works, but when you see someone who's like doing that stuff on their own and interested in making comedy and really dedicated to it on that level, it's like a reciprocal thing. You're like, if you keep doing this because you're Almost Friday and they have to like the brand, identify with the brand, then you have a place here.
Yeah.
And I think it's a credit to them because a credit to them and a credit like, you know, to the ways that they come together with the company. They have like all the tools that it takes to become this like incredible piece that carries the company to a level it wasn't at before.
Gotcha. Yeah. So like after raising that round and realizing that, okay, this is what the company's going to be. So we're no longer just a creative content.
Yeah, we actually hired them before we raised any money. Okay. We hired a lot of the creators before we raised any money.
And they were just like down for the cause.
But we paid them. Okay. We do pay our employees, by the way. We paid them. We were making money from brand deals, which is like how we pay the salaries. But we were just like, you know, if this is going to get bigger and if they're going to do more interesting stuff and we're going to kind of continue to build out the company in different ways on YouTube, on podcasts, on TikTok, in addition to Instagram, on apparel, you need funds to do it. Yeah. And you need funds to do it in like 2022, which is like when we were rocking. So it was just like, here's the time. There was a lot of interest. People have been asking us what our plans were, and we just pulled the trigger, and it really fit in well with like what the kind of work the guys were wanting to continue doing and the company's continuing to do.
In terms of like steering the boat in which directions the company's going to go, the obvious association is, okay, Barstool is there.
Yeah, for sure.
And they have their own lane.
Yeah.
And how did you guys want to like make your own mark, basically?
Yeah. Barstool is a huge influence. Like I read Barstool pretty like devoutly. Really, I mean, I sort of aged out of it, but like until like 2016, I was like reading Barstool. And then I just started listening to I was continuing to listen to the podcast. Like part of my take I listened to. I think Big Cat's like one of the funniest guys in sports, period. PFT commentary is like so incredibly brilliant and funny. And then I like Spittin' Chicklets a lot. I think Ryan Whitney's really funny. Yeah. I think Paul Bissonnette is like the most dynamic hockey person out there. And I was really informed by them because I'm a kid who likes sports and likes culture, and that's what they deliver. They are the kings of like talking heads content in our world. They're like, Dave Portnoy does something ridiculous, gets clicks. I think Dave Portnoy is also like a genius, really. Like how he kind of gets stuff going. And I was like, this is sort of forming our culture from like a new category. It's like new media that is about what we care about as I was a 29-year-old guy when I started Friday Beers. But like, could we make something that is borrowing from that content universe, but done with like scripted comedy?
Yeah.
So it's to not really realize like everything we put on Friday Beers and our network is either, if it's not scripted, it's all thought out and written beforehand.
Yeah.
It's all planned. It's all put together with like an idea in mind that isn't just like go on there and talk about stuff for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Because we're not really that type of talent. We're a different type of talent. We're trying to hire comics, and we're really a scripted comedy network that is taking in the experience of growing up, the original Friday Beers experience, and being very inclusive in that idea. Like, we don't want anyone to ever feel like they can't be involved with Friday Beers. It's super positive. Nobody is not invited to this party. We're all going through the same things together, and we wanted to make sure our scripted comedy was like, I'll just call it our comedy and our lifestyle was known for those points.
And that, you know, like you could have taken the company in any which direction at that point after raising the money.
Yeah.
What's your pull towards scripted comedy? Because you did tell me that how you liked the old school comedy and wanted to bring some of it back, but you could have easily gone the route of, we're just like a content machine now, like Barstool is, and we'll like make clips and memes and all of the above. But what's the pull towards comedy that moment?
So it's like sort of why I was talking about the founding, because that's what we really wanted to do.
Yeah.
We wanted to be scripted comedy writers. We wanted to make a sitcom, and like we wanted to write a movie, and we wanted to be like LA Hollywood dudes who are doing this stuff. And that was always our goal. And it was driven by love for that old school type of content.
Yeah.
It was driven by like Wedding Crashers.
Yeah.
Probably seen it like 85 times, you know, like that type of
Practice
commitment.
Football,
Exactly. Like I watched The Waterboy recently. I actually watched it twice through, and like that movie is like incomparable to me. It's so funny, and the way that like comedians but actors like that think, it's like, you know, it deserves a place in culture. Like it needs to be had. And that's why we started Almost Friday Media, is to create a home for scripted comedy that can exist in 2021, really, when we started the company, that is dying out now. Like that's sort of the reality is we obviously do things like we've sold shows in and we do pitches, but our content, it's not really part of our business. Our content is all put it out for free. Put it out on Instagram, put it out on TikTok, put it out on Twitter, put it out on Facebook sometimes, put out podcasts, put out YouTube. Make that good. And if people are coming to your content and watching it, you know you're doing the stuff right. And if that is really changing, I think, the way that like brands sponsor content that we make. It's the feature. It's actually changing the way I think people are seeking out ways to be entertained. Like I just moved, for example. I cut out my cable subscription.
Fuck yeah.
And I watch heavily stuff on social. I watch YouTube, and I watch a select show here and there that I'd get by like, I'm going to watch Hulu shows, so I'm going to download Hulu, and I have a Hulu subscription. I'm going to watch Max or HBO or whatever it's called, Max. Like I have an HBO subscription.
Yeah.
It's not really that I pay that much less with the cable subscription, which was like $250 a month.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm watching anything that's like prime time on cable. It's like
not sports.
No,
whatever,
and it's in sports you can get through just like watching it on
YouTube TV. And
exactly on YouTube TV. So it's changing, and the fact that I'm 34 and I'm giving up on it.
Yeah.
I am not even close to how a 24-year-old consumes content. Like I'm not even close to how an 18-year-old consumes content. They're doing it strictly with these other methods that is really the future, I think, of like how people are consuming the stuff they want to watch and how culture is getting formed. And we want to be on the bleeding edge of that. So that's how we kind of set up our company, is like we cater to those people and how they're actually getting their content.
So you intentionally said that the content you guys were producing were like all technically like free content, and that's like the top of the funnel basically.
Yep.
And from there, what's the pitch to the brands besides that we have this demo on lock?
That's part of the pitch.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like key to be honest, because we don't reach, like a 25-year-old female audience member that well. We reach 21 to 35-year-old males.
Sports dudes, basically.
Really well.
Yeah.
And that's who we are. We're almost Friday Media. And that type of consumer or audience member is like who likes the type of creative we put out. And that's how we have a conversation with, I'll just like pick a brand. That's how we have a conversation with Jose Cuervo.
Yeah.
It's like they're a great brand and they want access to that customer. So we start having a conversation about how we can bring that to them across all of our networks or all the parts of our network. And that's how we try to juice things up. Not how we try to juice things. That's how we get deals done. It's like, this is an audience member that is probably key to your demo.
Yeah.
We can deliver that if we do things our way. And that's how a lot of our brand pitches get explored. We make basically two types of branded content.
Yeah.
The first is like more authentic and like lives on our page.
Yeah.
Morgan & Morgan, you've probably seen ads for them before. They're like one of the most, I'll call it, authentic and understanding advertisers of digital content in the world.
Yeah.
They're tapped into what works. So they did like, they presented us an idea that we got on with, Daniel Mack. He's like the car guy who goes around. He's like, what do you do for a living?
On TikTok? Yeah.
He does it on TikTok and Instagram. And we did a sketch with him where he was like doing that to Liam and Will in a car.
Oh my gosh. Hey, excuse me, man. I love your car. Oh, my fucking collarbone's broken. Yo, what do you do for a living, man? What?
And Dan Morgan comes and the car explodes. It's like one of the funniest things. That lives on Friday Beer's feed.
What are you fucking talking about, man? Oh, is that him? Oh, shit. Oh, hey, you're the lawyer on the billboards, right? Nice suit. What do you do for a living?
Yeah, I'm Dan Morgan from Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Did you call?
That got like 2.2 million views. Incredible amount of impressions. It was hysterical. Like the car explodes at the end. It's like one of the funniest kind of endings to a sketch. But it got like, 40,000 likes on Reels, 2.2 million views, and that's authentic content. Yeah. That's one thing that we make. And then another thing that we make is whitelisted ads. So we could do like a Bird Dogs ad. Yeah. Will Angus like performs in Bird Dogs and he has this like really funny sketch. And that is only run through Bird Dogs paying for a Friday Beers ad to show up in their customers' feed. That doesn't show up on our natural feed.
Basically they hire you for you guys' brains and cast.
Yeah, they hire us for our creative takes, and they hire Will basically because he's one of the funniest digital creators in the world. I think all of our comics are actually that, but like Will, I think is so funny. And I think Bird Dogs and other brands see he can be an effective digital spokesperson. Not effective, he can be an amazing digital spokesperson for us. which is a huge audience or huge channel for our audience to access.
Changing gears a little bit, besides the comedy, the sketch comedy, one of the biggest drivers was obviously the Almost Friday. And
yes, that's like what we've
Instagram
contributed to internet culture more than
culture. That's the biggest thing I've ever seen, like a brand being associated with.
Yeah.
And this is probably a super graphic design nerd question, which is why the lobster font and what's the story behind it?
I think Max just chose lobster.
Yeah.
When we were starting to put these out, and it was, I think, like a font that does fit well with like Friday Beers' like personality and humor.
Yeah.
But it was, I think, chosen really smartly by Max. And we started doing these tributes to people who like embody that Almost Friday is a feeling of like just being unique.
Yeah.
And like celebrating culture. And when we put up like every Thursday 10 slides, like the Almost Friday slides. That's just like a tribute to like what's going on that week.
Yeah.
And Max picked, I think, an incredible font that goes over these photos and becomes like a real symbol of like, we made it again, or we almost there. And it's been awesome because that feeling has spun out, as you said, and really taken over the internet.
Yeah. And like I've seen, like I worked in politics, I've seen like GOP use it.
Oh my God, they use it all the time.
And I'm like, well, like, this is not your idea.
They use it, and sometimes they tag us. Listen, it's like, it's bigger than our company, which is good. Like that, to contribute something like that is meaningful towards internet culture is a mark of a company. And I'll say this because I'm proud of a company like that is around to stay. And like, I love it because a lot of other entities adopt it.
Yeah.
And they credit us for it too. Like UConn men's basketball, after they won them the NCAA championship, I think it was like the Thursday after they won, they made Almost Friday post and they requested to post it with us.
Yeah. And
that's not the first big sports team that's done that. But it's just a cool thing because like that's as topical as it gets.
Yeah.
I'm from Connecticut. I'm like, I can be a bandwagon UConn
Yeah.
for sure. But it's cool because it just brings in so many people to your movement, and what we're about is like bringing more people in on that, you know. So it's a very, very cool marker of culture that we've really successfully put out there, and is still growing.
To close the loop on that, like that is kind of like habit forming.
Yeah.
Like I know, like today's Thursday, so like I woke up and I knew that there's going to be that.
My feed is all different accounts.
Correct,
with
like
Almost
stories.
Friday.
Yeah. So like I think like that's what goes into driving culture. If you can like tap into people's habit and make yourself like a part and parcel of it.
That's it.
And I think, yes, Barstool is there. Yes, Barstool does make, I don't know, news content. They do go viral. But I think I associate the Friday habit making to you guys.
I'm proud of that. And I also say that Barstool has like done that in so many ways. It's like Viva la Stool is like a huge
that's
rallying
every
cry.
flag ever.
You know, and like they have contributed so many sayings and phrases that have shaped culture that because they're brilliant people, and they are doing something that we are doing in our own way.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're able to do it on a scale that's growing and bigger is I think a testament to like the ideas are good and the creative is good. And that's what we just want to be, is like a funny, different type of creative that's putting things out there that continue. I don't know what we're saying, but like the exact term, but like continue to like shape mass culture.
Yeah, habit forming.
Yeah, habit forming.
Going back to like the culture aspect of it, obviously comedy is the bigger driver here. And just to double click on like the State of Union of all things comedy and what is allowed and what is not allowed. What is the active decision making from you guys to say that, okay, this is the feeling, we want to tap back and remind folks that comedy used to be this? And you said like political correctness and all that. How does the brand view the taste making aspect of it?
Yeah. The number one thing that we try to avoid, or sorry, that we're not like trying to bring into our content, and we're very purposeful about this, what I was just about, is like anything that can be construed as like problematic.
Yeah.
That's what we avoid.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not going to do anything that's like, and we believe in this, like politics doesn't belong in our comedy.
Yeah.
Like jokes about women that are negative and awful and like misogynistic do not belong in our comedy at all. That's not cool. That type of stuff can be weeded out really well through thoughtful conversation. What we represent is like the simplest joys in life. That this sounds dumb, but I think it's a really great joke. My brother Sam made it. He actually posted a meme of this dude singing like "Country Road." It was like this old dude.
Yeah.
And it was like the feeling of that first sip of a beer on Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
And that purity of that joke and that humor is what Almost Friday represents.
Yeah. It's a gut feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nothing like critical of anybody else.
Yeah.
It's celebratory of like a feeling that we all go through.
Yeah.
Positive. And then the negative stuff is stuff that like is fine to joke about that people like might be shy about. Like we always make dumb jokes about like not knowing how to do our taxes. Like,
yeah.
We make dumb jokes about like not knowing what Chinese food to order on Sunday.
Yeah.
Stuff that like, you know, guys to a greater extent like relate to with each other.
Yeah.
Those are the stuff we want to be honest and talk about. We don't want to hide any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Like we're a brand that stands for like positive men's mental health.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be something that's like hiding behind things. Like talk about your issues, joke about your issues and get through them together. That's definitely core to the Almost Friday mentality. And I think Max and I initially, when we were like kind of writing about Friday beers and putting out all the videos and jokes, we're always like, that's what we have to stick to and continue to do.
I want to move on to the business part of it. But it's so funny because anytime I have force-fed Friday beers into the girls or women in my life, they're all like first reaction of this like dumb guy humor, and eventually they kind of like buy into the culture because I keep bombarding them with screenshots of like the Almost Friday thing, and eventually you do win them over because they realize it's just like funny shit which everyone likes.
Exactly.
So, but going back to the business of it, I went to journalism school, and I always think deeply about media companies and them closing shops recently, like companies like BuzzFeed, Vice, and they've always gone there. They've kind of closed doors because they did not adapt well to the post-ad market content game. Do you guys think about that and how you guys want to like make sure that the lights stay on for a long time?
We're definitely aware that that stuff is happening. And I think there's a key differentiating line to be drawn is like the type of content that those places create is fundamentally more serious and different than what we do.
Yeah.
And we're not making news content.
Yeah.
We're not making stuff that's like requires an immense amount of resources to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
That may not be the way that people want to consume that stuff anymore. We also don't need like the amount of resources.
The overhead is low.
That like you need to produce like a network television show. If you look at a lot of the good stuff that's made on our platform, it's like shot on iPhone.
Yeah.
We do some amazing sketch stuff. I think the best sketch stuff online on YouTube, which is directed by Tyler Falbo, I think is incredible, but like we do it for cheap. And I think a huge trend is that you need to be able to do that a lot, like consistently.
Yeah.
But you don't need to make like the Morgan & Morgan video was shot on a phone.
Yeah.
You don't need like serious cameras to do that. You know, like you don't need, you should be able to do it quickly, but like it shouldn't cost you $150,000 to make that. It costs you much cheaper.
So the advice to the younger, I don't know, like media.
Listen, I would never pretend to be someone who can understand exactly where the ball is going.
Yeah, you are running a pretty big media company at this point, so like you do have authority.
Well, what I believe is that you have to know what people are watching, and what they're sharing with their friends.
Yeah, the organic share. Yeah.
Something that I pay attention to all the time is like the likes Friday Beers gets on their videos is good, but if you go and you look at it, most of it could get 35,000 likes, but it might have 70,000 shares.
Yeah.
Stuff that's getting shared more than liked means it's really hitting like a core within people.
Yeah.
That's what I judge as a good piece of content. And going back to your question, you got to know that like a 22-year-old is watching that stuff more than they're watching like a Hulu show.
Yeah.
And I would focus on making what they're watching more. Make what the people who are consuming your content prefer to watch. And if you can anticipate that, then you can have a pretty good future in trying to serve them up content that they enjoy.
The obvious vertical for you guys is like, the sports is right next to what your demo is interested in. Have you guys like thought about what kind of integrations you guys want going further besides comedy, if any whatsoever?
Well, the real verticals for us are entertainment, which means like TV and movie comedy.
Yeah.
Sports, which is sort of like hand in hand to what we do. And we're building out like, we have a hockey channel, we have an F1 channel, we have Dr. Locke's a great sports gambler, we have Glue Guy who's like sports analysis. And then sort of like, I hate the word pop culture, but it's like cultural topicalness.
Yeah.
It's like when we do our Almost Friday post today, there's a great photo of like Young Thug like dapping his lawyer.
Yeah.
You know, like that's like a weird musical thing, but it exists in our world. It's like what you're gonna go out and have a beer with your friends, like where you're gonna like kind of joke about and talk about.
Yeah,
is sort of like culture, and that's something that we want to stay in and kind of do. And we're not gonna like go outside of that. That's not where we have expertise, or we ever will have expertise. We want to be in like the business of stuff that makes people kind of smile and laugh. And if I'm going to break it down, if I had to sort of make an attempt to break it down, I would say those are the buckets that you kind of stay in between. Yeah.
Going back to the beer.
Yeah.
And which is why you're in the city today. Is talk to me about like what was the forethought behind, okay, now it's time to get into the D2C business, because yes, you guys sell merch, yes, you guys do live events.
We have a bar.
Now in Nashville, I think, right? Yeah.
We don't own the bar. We license our name to a real company that runs bars, which I think is key to say, because we don't do stuff that we don't know how to do.
Yeah, that's the hotel business these days.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like the same.
But you find partners who know how to do it, and then you can kind of give your creative input, and they do like the running of the bar, which is an incredibly difficult process that professionals need to know
how to do. So talk to me about, give me the beer rundown. How did that whole thing come together?
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of a long process. Like, I'll give you the short version of the long story. Like, we almost made it with like a huge company that turned out to be the right move not to do it, just because there was like sort of a misalignment in like understanding what our brand was. Which is fine, because like at a big company, they have a lot more problems to deal with than like a startup media brand who's like making a name for themselves tied to drinking. And obviously it was an alcohol company that was making it, but they're just like, it didn't work out. And it was a good thing, because I had met him. I knew a guy from growing up, a great guy named Will McDonough, who told me, he's like, if you did this beer with me and the people I bring you, you will make a lot better business decision, and you can have something that like might be worth more than the other version. And so after this first kind of phase sort of fizzled, I said, all right, well, let's do it. And he brought me the team. He's like, Sagnik Brewery is going to make your beer. There's this other guy who is a CEO of Cisco Brewery. He's going to be a partner on the team, and I'm going to be a partner on the team. He's like a businessman. And we were like, we started a new company called Almost Friday Beers LLC. And we own part of it. That group owns part of it. And we were like, we're going to make this beer in Utica, New York, where Sagnik Brewery is. We did a blind taste test. We tasted the beer amongst a ton of other light beers. And this is what I knew was going to work, is that my brother, Max, and my partner in the business, Andrew Kenward, we all blind taste tested this beer from Sagnik Brewery in our top 2 and amongst 12 light beers that were good. And I was like, dude, they make an incredible light beer. It's just not that widely distributed, but it's like, it tastes so good. And because it tasted good, I was like, we can put something out. And I'm not saying that we're like gaining scale tremendously fast. We did a basically like a soft launch in November around Thanksgiving and pushed it out in Massachusetts, Rhode Island. And then we waited for the spring to do this big push in New York. People know the brand, but now that they tried the beer, and they kind of take a sip and they're like, oh, this isn't dog shit. I like this beer. I'm going to put it on my menu. And actually, it's funny, because I was like doing on Wednesday, I was going to grocery stores in Greenpoint and selling the beer.
I saw your story,
Yeah, it was hilarious. It was great. We sold in the beer a lot of places. Today I was with Rusty Featherstone, who's a comic that works for us. And we were selling in bars around like the theater district and like the West Side, just going from bar to bar to bar and selling in beers. And it's great because you meet these like amazing people who own bars, who run bars, and you realize like these are the folks that make Friday beers what it is. And like to sell them in the actual product and to see them taste it and be like, let's do it, is sort of one of the more like, I don't know, feelings of where you're like, dude, this brand can be around for a while.
Okay, so like let's stay on that. Let's get a little personal, because you are 33, 4.
I'm 34.
34. You are not technically, you're like literally running a media company.
Yeah.
But at the same time, your day to day goes into all of these stuff, which is going to grocery stores and like pushing.
Well, I don't do the grocery store.
You don't like want a grocery store.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is like you're involved heavily into the day to day operations of it, and like when there's so much care behind this one thing you're doing, which is selling. It's like trying to sell more beers.
Yeah.
So what does a 32-year-old media CEO look like is radically different from like the BuzzFeed CEOs of the
Dude,
world.
I'll tell you the reason our company is successful is because I know everything that's going on in the company for sure.
Yeah.
But we've also hired incredible people to run every division, incredible, creative, hardworking people to oversee the social media content, sales to brands, the podcast production, YouTube production, direction, and I'll call it like all the stuff that's like behind those things, apparel, both the creative, but also the management, and then also the marketing of it.
Yeah.
And then what we call like the D2C brands, which are like Friday Beers, the beer, the bar, and we actually have like a board game called Almost Friday, the pregame that's coming out. I'm aware of all that stuff, but there is a person and oftentimes there are teams that set up to run and report what they're doing into the entire entity.
Yeah.
So I know it might seem like I have like a ton to do, but honestly, my job, I kind of think about it in terms
set up
of
systems.
3 things. Well, setting up systems is what I call the overall like CEO-ness.
Yeah.
Build the systems for people to make amazing stuff who are more talented than I am at it. They're the creative geniuses, honestly, like who are putting out content that is like really making people happy. It's that. It's pitching Friday Beers as a branded content entity with our sales team. So like we're selling into brands, like here's what Friday Beers does. I do that. And then I oversee the beer sales. And a lot of that, I don't do any like the sales stuff. That's what like our beer partners do.
Yeah.
But I pitch in like, here's the brand Friday Beers.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm doing everything at the company at all. It's like I'm doing a few things that I'm good at, but I know that we're building them. I don't know, like with the team that we have assembled, we've created these amazing systems that allow people to like put their mark on Almost Friday and continue to build the stuff that they're already doing.
Last question, and you can like tell me if I'm wrong here. Like you said you're from Greenwich, right?
Yeah, Greenwich, Connecticut.
And that's a pretty like finance heavy town.
You're a doctor, a lawyer, you're a banker, or you're a failure.
As East Coast as it comes.
I worked at Deutsche Bank, by the way. Yeah, for 2.5 years after I graduated from college. I was like an English major, I was a creative writing major. But I was like, everyone works in finance. I got to work in finance. And 6 months into it, I was like, what the fuck am I doing at this job?
Yeah.
But I will say, when you work at an investment bank, you just like learn how of a lot of valuable just like office skills. Like I don't know how to do it that well anymore. You know how to make comm sets, you know how to do an MPV, you know how to build a model, you know how to make a presentation look nice, you know how to email people correctly. So I was like, I'm going to hang around and I'm going to kind of coast this out and find a job in media. Yeah. And I eventually found this guy, John, came in to hire me at Radical Media, but it was sort of a long road, but I was glad that I waited to get out. And what I want to tell people is that you should wait.
Yeah.
You should think about what you're going to do. Don't assume that the job that you do right out of college is going to be what you do for the rest of your life. It's so rare for that to happen. And honestly, it's not even practical.
Yeah.
Think about what you want to do and be considerate with it. Anyway, I know you're about to ask me a question, but I wanted to say that.
No, that's exactly where I was trying to go. Yeah. And I don't know, like the people you grew up around were probably are people who are involved in Wall Street somehow.
Yeah, definitely.
And from someone who's like that's the osmosis happening around you, but you want to go creative storytelling comedy route.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you do kind of have to, I don't know what your connections were coming into this space, but like it's kind of like setting up your own lane. What was the conviction behind that point? Because like you are leaving a steady day job.
Totally.
And setting up this thing from scratch.
Well, I'll say 2 things to that. The first is my family is one of the best. I have the best family of all time.
Yeah.
My dad in particular, he says, I don't care what you do as long as you're happy and you're into what you're doing. He always said that to me. I also have, so that was sort of, I always had that in the back of my mind, you know? I was like, I have the greatest people in the world around me telling me I don't have to do one thing or the other as long as I'm thinking about what I want to do and I'm trying hard. And I would always credit my dad for that. I also have my dad's brother, who is named Jamie Barrett. He is one of the most, he's a creative director at an advertising agency called Barrett Hoffer, but he's also worked for like Wyden and Kennedy and Goodby Silverstein and Fallon and all these huge agencies. And he's made incredible ads. He's made ads with Michael Jordan. He's made incredible NBA basketball commercials. He's made ads for eBay. He's made ads for Saturn. He's like one of the most prodigious creative directors like in the industry. And he helped me a lot think through, like, if you want to get involved in media, whatever you want to call it, storytelling, here's some people to think about and talk to. And here's some ways to think about what we do and what you want to do. He helped me a ton to steer me towards the people that got me out of Deutsche Bank. And he was like, you should write letters to all these people and tell them what you want to do. And I did. I wrote letters to like 12 heads of agencies and production companies. And, you know, a lot of them didn't return my letters or whatever. It's fine. But like 2 did. And 1 was like, I have something that I think this kid could be interesting for. And just taking those shots about things you might be interested in is what cracks open the wall a little bit to sneak your way in there and build something that you just gained access to. So I give him a ton of credit. And he's like he's like, you know, I actually am working with him now on Friday Beers because his company, Barrett, is doing the advertising for it that you see on social media. And then you're probably going to see like at home here in New York. But he's been an absolutely not meaningful. He's been an absolutely critical influence on my life till me get here.
This is probably the most like sales and marketing question to end this on, but like, what's the next 5-year plan for
Almost Friday Media?
Yeah.
Well, it's. I think we just had a really big year in 2023 to sort of develop what we do as a company.
Yeah,
and we have like basically different ways of making content, and all we care about is making good content.
Yeah,
that makes us money. We make social media content that we sell brands through, which is Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. We sell apparel online. We make podcasts. We make YouTube. We do live events, which is like the DJ Press Play character.
I love him, by the way. Like, he replaced a Big Booty mix for me after I graduated. I needed something else because it was the same mix playing when I'm working out all the time.
Yeah.
So that kind of like helped me find out another mix.
You should talk to my brother Max about the early days of DJ Press Play. He'll have some funny stories to tell you. But we have him.
Yeah.
And then we have like branded events that we throw. And then we have like direct to consumer stuff. So it's like 6 ways of making money. And I think that is set up now. We really just got everything built out. And we invested a lot in like making good YouTube and making good podcasts that are really doing well. And we cancel the stuff that doesn't work, by the way. If it doesn't appeal to our audience, we cancel that stuff. But I want to build those, I don't know what you want to call them, like verticals out to the point where we are really making whatever like our audience is engaging with, and we're selling through at 100% capacity. And I just I don't know what that number is going to be, but I feel like once we are at that level, we're going to be a real cultural force in kids growing up comedy, which is all I really want to be. Is I want to be the guys who remembered that Animal House was a good flick, and they brought it back, and they brought these type of movies and comedy back to our lives, and they made it cool to be waiting for Friday and then enjoying the weekend. And that's what I would love to leave as what we'd love to leave as our kind of contribution into this sphere.
And that's a legacy. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.